Picking up where I left off in the last video when I was in Oceanside, California. Okay, I got through that night and the series of events that took place that next day. I decided that I was leaving, so we exchanged vehicles. We re-exchanged vehicles. I packed my vehicle and started heading north. Because now I'm going home. I'm going back to Ohio and I need a reliable vehicle. I pulled over about an hour into my ride. I pulled over and stopped at a Starbucks. Now this whole impulse thing with the chest pains where they're shooting this electromagnetic force into my chest is still taking place. But now they're trying to take my soul. Now they're trying to take my soul. And I feel this immense amount of pressure on my back. On the left side of my back, right in my shoulder blade. And it's like it's a digging and a pulling sensation. A digging and a pulling sensation. And this goes on for hours. This went on for hours and it kept me planted for hours. Because I had to literally fight to... It was a fight. I'll say that much. So for hours that went on and it took place. The conversation was something like the conversation that I'm talking about, the conversation of the Todds, my oppressors, was something like, she won't let go. We can't get it. And they're taking turns trying. So some forces and some pulls are worse than others. That went on once again for hours. All to come to the conclusion that they weren't able to take it because I have an anointing over my life. Now, they know this, but it didn't stop them from trying. This went on all the way up until the point where I got home in Ohio, which was, this took place the night of the 8th, April 8th. This took place all the way up until the night of April 13th. Because I got home April 14th. Or the night of April 13th. Yeah, so that day. Once they stopped and let up for a while, once it subsided a little bit, I got back on the road. And I didn't pull over again until I got to Rancho Cucamonga. In Rancho Cucamonga, I pulled over at a 7-Eleven. There's a 7-Eleven right here, and then there's a Jack in the Box on the right, to the right of it. I backed in at the 7-Eleven and went to the Jack in the Box. At the Jack in the Box, I can be seen on their surveillance, roughly around 3 o'clock. Having some issues because they were doing the thing with my heart again, trying to get me to have a self-induced heart attack. I left the Jack in the Box, went across the street, not across the street, but just not even a good 50 feet, roughly, to the 7-Eleven. As soon as I walked in, I saw Keisha at the register. The whole time I hear them trying to forewarn her that I'm coming. She's at the gas station. When I walked in, she looked like she saw a ghost. So on their surveillance, I point her out first on their surveillance instead of beating her ass. Because if I would have known that she was going to be the problem that she's been for me, I would have whooped her ass real good then. So I'm going to get into what type of problem this girl has been. Point her out on surveillance and then call the sheriff's department. I called the sheriff's department, MADS. I believe those are his initials. I got it written down somewhere, but it's not that big of a deal. Diaz shows up. When he shows up like I didn't make the call. He shows up like he's responding to an issue. Now keep in mind, some of the details that I left out is this entire way here they're taunting me about what these cops are going to do to me when they catch me. About all the trifling things that they do to these women when they catch them. And those details I'm not going to get into because it's very disturbing. So he responds. The first thing he asked me when he pulls up, I'm back at the Jack in the Box now, and I'm on the phone with my mother. And I'm telling her that I'll call her back because, you know, I'm going to call the ambulance. He's pulling up right as I tell her that. So I just stay on the phone with her. He gets out of his vehicle and he says to me, I jump up and I say, hey, you know, hi, I made the call or whatever, you know, this, that, and any other. He goes, ma'am, have you had anything tonight? And I said, no. He said, well, I'm pretty familiar with not methamphetamine. He said, I'm pretty familiar with what the signs of drugs look like. He said, and I'm pretty sure you've had some methamphetamine. I said, meth? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm tripping out. He's like, who are you on the phone with? I'm like, my mother. He's like, can I speak to your mother real quick? So I give him the phone and allow him to speak with my mother. And she's telling him what she knows about the situation. The phone call ends, and he gives me a sobriety test for methamphetamine. He gives me a fucking sobriety test for methamphetamine. And I'm telling him, I'm like, I'm having these chest pains. And I'm afraid to fucking tilt my head back because I think I might pass out. So anyhow, I do this fucking sobriety test. Then he puts me in the back of his car. He cuffs me and puts me in the back of his car like I did not make the fucking call. So everything that these people are saying to me is coming to pass. So now that I'm sitting, I'm begging this officer like not to fucking shut his door. Because I'll hyperventilate. He leaves the door open, but he has me in cuffs. And he's waiting on a female officer to respond so that she can go through my purse and my vehicle. And I'm pissed. And I'm like, officer, have a fucking heart. Soon as I said that, he piped down just a little bit. But nonetheless, the way he responded to me was cruel and unjustifiable. You can't justify that in any way, shape, or form. So anyhow, the female shows up on the site. He has my purse sitting on the top of his hood, on the hood of his vehicle. I wonder if the reason they were having sheriffs respond to me more than half the time was because they don't have dash cams. Or maybe they do. I don't think he had one. Anyhow, I don't know. So look, like I said, 7-Eleven, Jack in the Box, both of those people surveillance caught it. But check this out, I'm getting to it. The female officer comes, she goes to my purse, there's nothing there. And he's asking me questions about my car now. And a couple other deputies show up. And they're like, we're going to search your vehicle or whatever. I'm like, fine, no problem. They go over to the 7-Eleven. We all walk over there. And they go through my vehicle as I sit on the fucking curb and wait on them to finish checking my vehicle. So right now, they're shooting the shit while this one guy is going through my car. All to find nothing. He found nothing. And then the fucking douchebag that did that turns around and tells the clerk to get rid of the surveillance in front of me. Like I didn't catch it. So this is 45 minutes later and I'm still asking for an ambulance. And they finally call one. But they call the fire department. So they show up with their first responder, gear or whatnot. And then later on, an ambulance comes and takes me to the hospital. So now they take me all the way out the fucking way. My car's here. I have no way back. I made a call. This whole time they're telling me I'm going to learn to keep my mouth shut. These folks. This was supposed to be a lesson. This was supposed to make me shut up and be quiet about all of this. And act as if it didn't happen. So now I'm at another Kaiser. From that Kaiser, I get to this Kaiser. And now I know I can't go to normal hospitals anymore. This is when I first discovered that I shouldn't be going to any other hospital other than a VA hospital. I get here. They check my vitals. They give me an EKG. And this time, they bring in a cup, but they didn't want to test my piss. I begged this doctor to test my urine, and he wouldn't. He said, oh, you just had a drug test 2 days ago. He said, there's no reason for that. You don't need one of those. So I politely put my piss in my purse and took it with me when I left, because I was going to have it tested myself. So now I'm discharged. That all took place at roughly 3:30 in the morning. It's now 6, almost 7 a.m. I'm catching a cab back to my car, back to the 7-Eleven. I get to my vehicle, put whatever's out of place back in place, and take off. But I go to it. I see a shopping plaza. It was Foothill Shopping Plaza. Like I said, it's like 7 a.m. This is on a Sunday now. It's the 9th. All that stuff started on the 8th. I go to this shopping plaza. Meanwhile, they're still threatening me. You're going to die, but you can't have any money on you. That's what they kept on telling me. You're going to die, but you can't have any money on you. We're not allowed to take you with any money on you. I go to this plaza. I park here. There's a juice shop that's open. Like, the plaza's pretty much empty. I mean, there's a few cars, but it's so early in the morning. There's not a whole lot of people there yet. It's not filled up on a Sunday. I park. I get out my vehicle and I walk over to the juice shop. I park by like the Old Navy and something else. Maybe Michael's. And walk over to the juice shop. I go over there, get a juicy or whatever. But I tell the cashiers, because I have a little cash on me. Everything else is in my purse, which is in my car. But my vehicle's locked. It's not a big deal. So what cash I have, out of the cash that I have on me, I write a note. And I do, just in case, because I don't know what the fuck these people are capable of at this point. And they have law enforcement and hospitals responding to me differently. They're capable. These people weren't even responding to me like they should. So I'm like, hey, I asked the cashier, like, hey, if I give you some cash, like, would you be able to mail it off for me, like, later today when you get off, or tomorrow, whenever? And she's like, yeah, I'll do it for you, sweet girl. Yeah, I'll do it for you. Okay. I come right back, because they were talking about going in and robbing these. It was just 2 young girls there. Gonna go and take the money from them. I go back, get the money back, and take a walk. Now, roughly, 3 miles away, there's a church. I stop in for maybe 20, 30 minutes of service and leave. When I come back, my vehicle's gone. When I come back, my vehicle's gone. The tides are telling me that it's been burned. Now let me tell you what my vehicle had in it. I had to grab the list. This is a list of the items that were in the vehicle. So, in my vehicle, there's a ton of stuff. Not a ton of stuff, but a lot of stuff. Enough. There's tons of books. There's jewelry, Social Security, birth certificate, 2 laptops, a tablet, my purse with cash in it, all of, let's see, there's clothes, there's the parking tickets that I was going to fight, my prosperity Bible, and my life plans. Now, out of everything that was in the vehicle, most important to me were my books. I'm really pissed about my books. My prosperity book, my life plans, and the other books that were in there. The laptops had the report on it, so I had to start the report over. The let's see, the plate numbers that I've been keeping, all that was in the vehicle. There's no wonder why they stole the vehicle. With everything all the evidence was in the vehicle. Plate numbers, FBI complaint, police report numbers, all that stuff was in there. And at this point in time, right before I left California, I'm up to roughly 8, probably 8 police reports at that point, because I had to make one for the vehicle being stolen. That would have been the 9th. So like I said, those are the items that are in the car. These people are talking about they've burnt my vehicle, that they have my belongings. They got my belongings, but they've burnt my vehicle. So now the cops finally show up. First of all, what I did was I went in to see if anyone, because everything's open now, I went in to see if anyone had surveillance that might have caught it. So the stores are telling me they don't have individual surveillance. They're like, you have to get a hold of the, I guess, the parking lot manager or something like that. So then I scrounge around and try to find a number for this guy. He shows up and he's no help. But you can't be telling me at a shopping plaza as big as this one, as nice as this one, that there's no surveillance. You can't be telling me there's no surveillance. You can't be fucking telling me there's no surveillance. So, the deputies finally show up. And they're mad because apparently they sent out the wrong group. They wanted someone else to respond to it and treat me differently. So they were mad that I was able to make a regular police report about this stolen vehicle. The people that came out, the female that came out, along with a guy, you know, he was in a different vehicle. He kind of just stopped to make sure everything was okay and took the key and went through the parking lots, you know, and just kind of tried to check for the vehicle. She made a normal police report. So now I'm stranded in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Rancho Cucamonga, with no car, and just what cash I have on me. No purse, no clothes, no nothing. Nothing. And they're still taunting me, and they're still attacking my heart. And it's hot. And I just came from a long walk. And they're showing no mercy. I go into Old Navy and I buy a change of clothes and go across the street to the Best Western. But in between time, I'm calling back to the people that I know in Bellflower, in which I ended up catching a cab from there to Bellflower. But while I was at the Best Western, I can be seen on their surveillance with them blowing stuff into my face. Just reacting from stuff being blown into my face. This is stuff you can't deny. You can't deny what was happening. Just for my record, I did keep a list of all the places that I can be caught on surveillance with times. So I do have that information. So anyhow, I go back to Bellflower. The cab ride there was hell. Oh my God. The cab ride there was hell. The cab ride there was hell. Reckless. Speed like you've never seen. Swerving all over the road. And meanwhile, this guy is holding a conversation. You could tell he's kind of... It's one of their guys. This is another attempt to scare me and get me to shut up and act like this didn't happen. And now they have everything. They have all the evidence. But they can't seem to kill me. I get back to Bellflower. So that next morning, I'm still having these... I'm still experiencing them attacking me. And because I don't play with my life, I go to the VA hospital. I go there, I register, I do everything that I need to do to be treated. Or not to be treated, but to be seen. I'm in the ER room, and as I'm sitting and waiting in the ER room, I come up with the room. This nice woman comes across me. Her name is Rosetta. I'm not going to say her last name. She runs into me. And we were sitting there and we were just talking about life. We were having a short conversation about life. She was waiting on her husband. And I was waiting to be seen, to be called back. So in the little brief time that I was sitting there waiting, because when she came in, she sat beside me. I was already writing up a letter, starting on the new report. So I'm going back, looking at my calendar, looking at... That's another thing that was in my vehicle, the receipts. All of my receipts. I keep all of my receipts. All of my receipts were in my vehicle. I was pretty pissed about that too. Those are important. But so I'm writing this letter. And she sits beside me and we're talking about life. And so I ask her, I say, well, what do you think about this? And I gave her a brief overview of what was taking place with me. And she just, you know, she gave me some insight and her input. And then I asked her, I said, well, would you mind just being a witness that, you know, we had this discussion here today? And she said, yeah, you want me to like sign off on your letter? So she signed my little letter that I was writing. She signed my little letter that I was writing. So, I don't even be showing her signature anyhow. But so she signed it. Anyhow, right shortly after that, they called me back, and I'm sitting there, and you know they're doing their ordeal. They're doing what they do. They're checking my vitals and everything else, finding out what they need to order. Shortly after that, after I come back from giving a urine sample, she was in the hallway, and she just kind of she was walking down it, and my room is right here at the end, and this is the hallway. So she saw me and she said, hey, and she came on in and she said a couple nice words, and she just reassured me everything was going to be okay. Was really pleasant. Was really pleasant. And then she parted. The weirdest thing happened. She left the room. She went out. She came back. But when she came back, it was like she was looking for me and she didn't know where I was. I'm sitting here and I'm watching her try to figure out. Her husband's like in the room, like right up. Let me see if I can paint a better picture of this. This is a hallway. Running like this. I'm sitting here. This is my room at the end of this hallway that's running like this. So this hallway that's running like this has rooms off to the side, and then of course the nurse's station on the inside. I'm in this room back here on this side of the hallway. I hope that makes sense. Her husband's up here. He's on this hallway, one of these rooms. She come back and she's wondering. She's looking for me, and she just left me. Not even a few minutes ago. She just left me. She come, and then it's kind of like she look up and she's like, it wasn't her. It was not her. It wasn't her. It looks up, and it's kind of like it realized, like, oh, she fits the description, and comes into the room, but comes into the room very different. This time, when she came in, here's my bed, the door, my bed, the door, and then over here on this side of me, on the left side of me, there's a chair, probably two chairs, no, one chair. And she comes around the bottom of the bed, passes the bottom of the bed, and comes over here and sits in this chair. So she's kind of like tucked off now, where she can't be seen. When she came in the last time, she was standing on my left side, on my right side, right here where it's visible in the doorway, and, you know, having this conversation, very pleasant. Now she's over here on my left, and she's looking at me with a screw face. Looking at me with a screw face. And she's asking me stuff. that she didn't, that she already knew the answer to. Instead he's saying everything's gonna be on Facebook okay, but her face is really screwed up and her conversation is different and her tone is different. And I'm a little uncomfortable. So eventually, the conversation ends and she leaves. There we go. I'm not going to get on you now. So that happens. Then the doctor comes in, you know, they come back and they tell me everything's fine, this, that, and the other. Now they ask me what I like to speak with. Because, let me be clear about something. All this stuff is taking place. But I know that when I have to recite this to someone, that the series of events sound bizarre. That's why it's going to take so many videos for me to break this down in a way that people can understand it. There's no good elevator pitch for this. Even when I tell my friends that can understand and they can't relate, but they understand because they know that these things are possible. It takes me 45 minutes to tell them the short version of the story. Without every single, without a whole lot of the details. So there's no way to fit this into an elevator pitch. It's so many things. It encompasses so many different things. It's fraud. It's attempted murder. It's art. It's a chip implant. It's theft. It's witchcraft. It's harassment. It's cyber theft. It's cyber crimes. It's so many things. And as this story goes on, and I help you make this make sense, and you're able to put these pieces together, you're going to see why I said there's no good elevator pitch for it. When someone asks me, oh, that's a tongue twister. But when someone asks me about this and what happened,